It seems to me the Argentine economy is just starting to open up now.
The only question really is what is the weighting that you want, and to what, how much risk do you want to have in your portfolio to Argentina? That's the question you need to answer.
The Argentina theme has performed strongly. Latest update is from Q2, but based on recent portfolio update, our Argentina stocks are nearing previous highs, while one stock, PAM, has outperformed significantly and is well above. Would you recommend letting these winners run, or do you suggest an alternative approach at this stage? Thank you for your continued dedication and insights. That's from Cold North.
Let me give you my thoughts and then Chris can chime in because you got some also great insight as well. It seems to me the Argentine economy is just starting to open up now. Milei's, all his efforts are starting to bear fruit, but the best is yet to come. The stocks are still cheap, believe it or not. They're not expensive. You can still buy most of these stocks. The P's are below 10 times, at least the forward P's are, so on and so forth. Dividend yields are still very, very good. From a quantitative perspective, we don't see, unless I've been living in a log cabin, which I am.
It looks like you are.
Yeah. Think of it, yes. So contrary signs. So if we start to see, on CNBC, people talking about, Time magazine, whatever economist, people talking about the Argentinian economic miracle, that would be a contrary sign to say, maybe having 30% of my portfolio in Argentina is not such a good idea. By the same token, we don't see that. We don't see anything of that. There's no one standing up going, yep, got to have Argentina. No one, very, very few. So from a quantitative perspective, although these things have gone up a lot, and yes, we got in at the bottom, and near enough to it, that's just by luck perhaps. Yeah, well, here's a problem. So these are the six, isn't it? Yeah, there's 6 stocks in the asymmetric portfolio. I think there's 5 in the dividend portfolio as well. Equally weight these things, you're up about 400%, assuming you were crazy enough to listen to us back in late 2021 and even 2022, you'd be about 400% right now. And so if you put 5% of your portfolio into it, which is what we sort of hinted at, you'd be now sitting at about probably 20% exposure. If you're a bit more gung-ho and you put 7% of your portfolio into it, you're probably looking at about 30% exposure now in your portfolio. So the question is, how high is too high? And it's only something that folks can answer themselves. We think it's going to go higher. And it's one of the things we did say, a couple of years ago, not specifically about Argentina, but many of these sectors we're investing in. It's like our biggest fear with these trades is we get out too early because a lot of these things have been in bear markets for a long time, and a resulting bull market will surprise everyone in terms of duration and magnitude, including us. And we did say we're going to try and drag the chain a bit and run with the crowd because we always know that we tend to get out too early in many of these things. That's my thoughts there. Chris, you might have some more thoughts on.
I think, I back up what you're saying. If, again, the valuations are not actually expensive. So here's the thing, like you could have a company, for example, let's say you got a company trading at $1 and it has a PE of 5, which is cheap, and it doubles its revenues. Is it now expensive because it's trading at $1.50 or $2? No, it can actually be cheaper, right? If its base costs are relatively static, and it's doubled its revenues, it can be a $2 stock, which is now actually cheaper than when you bought it at a $1 stock, right? So keep in mind that valuation matters. You're looking at your stock portfolio going, oh my gosh, I'm up 2 times or 3 times or whatever the case might be. But if you look, it's not always, but often when you look, and this is certainly the case with the banks. I think we spoke about this last month. The banks have been for 20 years plus basically operating without credit. There's no mortgage market whatsoever. Well, hasn't been in Argentina, not for a retail level. And corporate credit has been very difficult to get, and then when it's obtained, it's very expensive. So you have a banking sector which has basically been operating without the ability to lend. That's literally the bread and butter of banking. Now you're finding with a stabilizing of the currency and a reduction in a whole lot of retarded laws and taxation and everything else, there is now becoming an ability for the banks to actually obtain and provide credit, your margin expansion in financial services, especially banking, is massive. You basically had this industry which was hamstrung, and now it's being released to some extent. And this is without even FDI coming in. So I think we are a long way off still. When I look at FDI into the country, since Milei's got into power, it's grown, but it's grown by something like 1.7%.
That's foreign direct investment. Not much.
Overall. Most of the capital that's now being deployed within the country is actually domestic capital. It's people who've had money under the mattress and they've just been afraid of their government. And now they're like, oh, guess what? Maybe they're not like, there's a cautious optimism. So now they're going, oh, well, actually, I'll hire some more staff. I'll do this. I'll do that. Most of this is still domestic capital. There is very little FDI coming in. Again, 1.7% since he's been in power. It's fractional. And then if we also look, despite the country being a very large geographical area, a very large country, the size of the economy is very small, at least in terms of market cap. So even a small amount of FDI can really move the needle on this stuff in a big way. So, and that has not yet happened. And again, all of the other measures that are currently being taken seem positive. Milei just come out saying he's going to cut taxes by 90%. That would, sort of back of the napkin math, would bring Argentina into probably around about a 15% tax bracket. That equates it with a place like Singapore or Ireland.
Cheapest.
Which it's significant. I mean, it's not a tax haven, but it's kind of like,
so that's pretty good.
It's pretty damn good.
Well, we were talking about setting up a business there.
Yeah. The only question really is, what is the weighting that you want, and to how much risk do you want to have in your portfolio to Argentina? That's the question you need to ask and then answer, in my opinion. And that's not one that we're going to answer for you. It's entirely up to you to decide what that looks like. But I would not be at all uncomfortable with at least a 10% exposure to Argentina at this point in time. And then again, you're across sectors. You can be across multiple sectors, as we are with our existing positions in Argentina. So you're not taking sort of independent sector or independent equity risk. You're kind of playing the whole theme, but you're playing it across multiple sectors, all of which we think are, have decent probabilities in our favor.
I never thought of going back a few years, Chris. Look, folks, this has done very well for us, and we never knew it was going to do this well so quick. You just never know. Look, it's all very fine now, folks. It's all great. Even if you invested back in 2023, you're up, you've doubled your positions or more. If we go back to 2022, you can't quite see it there because you could. That drop from mid-2022, March 2022 to June 2022, that was a 40% drop. Those positions dropped 40%. They ramped up, they dropped back again. It's like, oh gosh, back to where we started. That's not amusing. And so you can have these pullbacks. I think the pullback in 2023 also wasn't that great in terms of percentages. Big pickup there was when Milei got in. It's all fine, but you got prepared for these pullbacks.
Going back to the question though, and if people are, for newer people, it's worth noting that anything in the portfolio we still think has a minimum, 200, 300% upside. And the moment that it starts becoming less clear is when we start talking about selling. So if you see the portfolio as is, you can assume everything in there is worth investing in and we're holding or / buying.
Yeah.
Because, for Glenorchy clients coming in, we're buying Argentina. It's no different.